ever since he decided to leave the royal family and go his own way in the United States. And he's just behaving, I think, sometimes appallingly. Certainly some of the things he said about members of the royal family, certainly, and Camilla and Catherine and his brother. I think you just don't do that with families. You know, your families are the most important thing in your life, and you just do everything to keep the family together and at peace. And I imagine the King's sort of unhappy with Harry being around people where he could learn stories and hear gossip and then put it in either his next book or his next podcast or his next radio or TV interview, and it looks like he's well informed. But of course, you know, the King felt very upset with that last thing Harry did, the book, especially what he said about his lovely wife Camilla. You know, because I mean they're a very loved up couple, and you know, to offend our Queen like he did in that book, you know, it really upset the King, and you know, I don't think he could easily forgive that. And I imagine the King's had strong words with him over it. Probably the reason why he didn't want to go and stay with him, because he probably would get another lot.
But it might not only be the King that didn't want Harry staying in a royal residence.
Well, you know, I think if you're referring to his brother, well, you know, I think that's going to take an awful lot of peacemaking for that feud to end, because William's pretty angry about that, and he doesn't seem to care who he tells about that. You know, he feels that you know, his brother, well, just referring in that opera, well, Meghan as well, referring to that Oprah Winfrey interview about, you know, the royals are racist in many ways because they questioned the colour of Archie's skin. Well, I mean, you know, I've talked to people with mixed race, and they say, well, that's a normal conversation you have when you're expecting your first child.
And they've gone back on that as well.
Well, now they have, yeah. But you know, then he quickly said, oh, it wasn't the Duke of Edinburgh or the Queen that said it. And then, you know, and at a later date, the Queen put out a statement saying, you know, our recollections vary. Well, I imagine, you know, most people will realise that was just the Queen saying, look, we don't believe anything you say, you know. So. In my view, Harry, if he comes here, fine, he's welcome here. Obviously, he's a prince of the realm, although he's decided to keep the title but not do any work. I don't think he's entitled to stay in the royal palace. I think he, you know, book into a hotel at any time. But you know, he's not putting. Look, you know, to be a member of the royal family in this country is a huge job. You're on show, you're in this electronic goldfish bowl all the time, people watching you, watching everything you do, everything you say, and a lot of responsibility that carries. And he didn't want that anymore. He wanted to go. I don't know why he went, because he was so popular here. I remember working with him. He was fantastic. He was just amazing. He was, especially with children, he was absolutely brilliant. And I travelled the world with him, and I did really enjoy working with him. But, you know, now I really don't care if I ever see him again, because the way he's behaved towards the King and our Queen and his brother and his sister-in-law is appalling. And I just feel that it's about time he realised that. And you know, he can't come and stay in palaces. You know, though the King, I mean, the King still loves him, and he would love him to come back and work for the family, but not as long as he's not going to write stories about it. And I think while that situation's still ongoing, I think that there's nothing's going to change.
Well, what my understanding is that Harry didn't want to stay in this royal residence that was offered because it was in a visible location with public entrance and exit points with no police protection. Now, I can tell you that he actually stayed when he was over here at the Coworth Park Hotel, which we know. The Coworth Park Hotel, which is a short drive from Windsor Castle. It's just off Crown Estates land. It's just off Windsor Great Park. But it's where Harry and William stayed the night before Harry's wedding to Meghan. I mean, it's something that they know, but it's a five-star hotel. It's palatial. It's a really nice place. You know, I can't afford to stay there. I think it's like £500-600 a night or something like that. But that's where he stayed, as opposed to a royal residence. I mean, does that? We're not security experts. Does that make sense to you that he turned down a palace?
It seems a lame excuse, personally. I mean, you know, royal palaces are fortresses. You know, everything's protected. I mean, Balmoral. I mean, they're just. I mean, it's just so protected, and they're so proud of that. The Metropolitan Police, you know, that what they do. And you know, from when the King goes up to Balmoral, the Metropolitan Police go up there with him. I mean, you know, they do long duties up there. So, no, it's a fact that they are safe. He just preferred the hotel, in my view.
Me and you've been working together for like 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
but you're celebrating a bit of an anniversary this year, aren't you?
Well, I've done 50 years on the paper.
It's your golden anniversary.
Well, you could call it that. I like to think it long service. I'm quite proud of that fact, actually, because, you know, I've been working for Mr. Murdoch for all these years, and, you know, he's a good employer, and he's always been very fair with me. And I feel this is a great paper, you know, and we're pretty quick with the news. We're pretty quick with the royal news, I mean, and great exclusives. And thanks a lot to you, Matt. I mean, you've been doing brilliantly since you've joined the royal reporting team, and it's been enjoyable. But I think we're going to not do too much in the near future with this
Well, exactly. So
election.
The King, you must have seen many prime ministers and stuff with the Queen back in, you know, when she was around. But so Sunak has called an election July the 4th, we finally know, but he had to go to speak to the King to tell him that he was to dissolve Parliament at some stage and that he was going to hold a general election. Is this a big moment for the King? Do you think this is his first general election as monarch? He's going to have lots of constitutional roles. He's going to take up a lot of his time and attention.
It is, but you know, I mean, he said farewell to Liz Truss. He said he's probably say farewell to Mr. Sunak, and probably welcome a new Prime Minister, and all in 2 years. I mean, that's pretty impressive. But the thing is, with a general election, you know, everything of importance that would sort of outshine reporting on the election gets cancelled. And I imagine the King was pretty cross about that, because, you know, he's just come back from a long illness. I mean, we didn't see him for months. And he's been really putting a big shift in, you know. I mean, he's working every day this week. And because of now the election, you know, a lot of it's going to be cancelled. I hope some of the big events go ahead. I hope that, you know, we get to Normandy with him and Trooping the Colour, you know, the big events in London, his official birthday. But you know, the election is important, and it will and should supersede everything. It's a big moment for the country. In democracy, it is the most important thing, that we can change the government anytime we feel it they're not doing the job for us, and the King will accept that. You know, he knows that's part of his duty. That you know, he's head of state, but the Prime Minister is the elected head of the government, and that's more important. So, you know, we'll probably be kicking our heels for a bit, but, you know, I imagine when the election's over, we'll be run off our feet with every single day. But he is, you know, the King is very interested in the running of the country. I imagine every day they have their weekly meeting with the Prime Minister. Now they're all it's very private, and no one ever knows what's said. But imagine having worked with Prince Charles, and for over 40 years, he's very interested in. I think he's very much a socialist, in my view. You know, he's very interested in the benefit, you know, helping the less well off, and you know, lots of these things he's done over mostly unheralded and you would unheard of. You know, and he would make sure that he gets his points of view to the Prime Minister. Now, be a stupid Prime Minister, in my view, didn't listen to him, because he's a very wise man and very much a visionary. I can remember, you know, him talking about organic food, and people called him a crank, and now you can't move in supermarkets for organic food. I can remember him talking about poor architecture, and the architects condemned him. But go and look at Paternoster Square now. It's beautiful, and also the King is not frightened to speak out. He does his research, he gets his facts in order, and he says it, and he's not frightened of the criticism.